So I'd like to introduce the speakers for today. We also have Joanna Ramirez. She is with Health Education Council and she's a program assistant. We also have Sal Sine. Sal, I hope I pronounced your last name accurately. He's also with the Health Education team and he's a program assistant as well. So Sal, we are excited to have you, join us this afternoon. We'd like to say, Sal's kind of like our guest chef for these kind of workshops. So he's going to be kind of doing a wonderful sort of, beverage demonstration and talking about some healthy beverages that we can kind of make at home. But without further ado, I'd like to kind of just, welcome everyone. And if it's possible, just to kind of put in the chat box the school. And I believe Heriberto did say, there'll be kind of just a tote, a book bag that's going to be shared with you. If you accidentally fail to include the ages of your children in the registration, if you can include that in there, that would be helpful for Heriberto. As he kind of supports the distribution of that nice kind of just incentive and giveaway for you guys. But I think what we want to start off first is kind of just, really thinking at a high level overview, what are some things that are really important when we start to think about, just sugar-sweetened beverages? What does this mean in terms of our health? So I decided to take a different approach in today's workshop and do something a little bit unique, a little bit outside the box. So we'll kind of, spend some time on this kind of graph, and we'll kind of go through these different sort of areas. So when we, to start off, drinks that are sweetened with added sugar, what are these called? We know these are called sugar-sweetened beverages. And these are added through processing of the food and, beverages. So the added sugars really contribute to, calories in the diet, and results, could potentially be weight gain and possibly lead to type 2 diabetes and obesity. And sugar-sweetened beverages don't include sweetened beverages that are really with low-calorie sweeteners like stevia, 100% juice, and plain milk. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this particular slide and kind of walk through what are some of those kind of just important nutritional or sort of health recommendations and just, key points to really keep in mind as we start to talk about sugar-sweetened beverages. So, I think we shared, the drinks that are sweetened, these are known as sugar-sweetened beverages. They're, the sugar is really added in the processing aspect of it. It's also even in the table, right? If we're drinking coffee and we add sugar to that, and, there's no really essential nutrients that sugar really provides. It's just, it adds to the calories in our diet, potentially could lead to weight gain, as we share type 2 diabetes and possibly obesity. Sugar-sweetened beverages, these don't account for really low calorie sweeteners. So beverages that are sweetened with things like stevia are not really in that category, as well as plain milk and 100% juice. So how much sugar is okay to consume when we really start to think about what are those recommendations and what is the dietary guidelines for Americans really recommends? When we start to think about, what that really means, it's not really a lot. So they do recommend less than 10% of the daily calories. And when we start to put that in a perspective of, let's say, grams of sugar, it's not really a lot. So if we look at about, a 2,000 calorie diet, that's about 200 calories would then be something that, would considered be okay in terms of the consumption of sugar and what that equates to. But that allotment is really low. It's really about 12 teaspoons of added sugar. So it's not really a lot. And the recommendation for children ages 0 to 5, it's really recommended that they don't consume any added sugars and really avoid sugar-sweetened beverages. As we shared, they don't provide any essential nutrients. And added sugars, these are just regular kind of table sugar, honey, high fructose corn syrup, as many of us are aware, are found in a lot of the type of soft drinks and other, beverages as well. So that's kind of something to really sort of, kind of keep in mind as you start to think through what does that mean for me? And a 2,000, calorie diet, that really is going to depend on your gender, your age, your level of physical activity as well. So that's typically not what is always recommended for an individual. So something to kind of keep in mind. Let's see, our other section that we're looking at is, the average adult consumes about 17 teaspoons of added sugar. And when you start to kind of think about what does that mean in an entire year, that's about 57 pounds of added sugar that a person may consume. And again, this is not really including children in that category unless a child is really consuming high amounts of sugar. The next one, this can result to plaque in your teeth and gums constantly. It's just that interacts with the sugars, right, in foods. So it's really important to kind of decrease that consumption and really have good oral health hygiene. And remember to brush and floss, at least twice a day if possibly. We just want to be able to keep the dentist away and those, dental carriers if we possibly can. So what main nutrient helps control the body temperature and transports other nutrients and waste in the body? That's, water. So along with kind of the core main macronutrients, when we start to think about, we may have heard things like carbohydrates, protein, and fats. Water is also just an essential sort of non-dominant nutrient. It's needed to, right, just stay alive and kind of move our bowel movements, support just bodily functions and other repair. And we know water doesn't contain any calories, and it's really an essential, essential beverage that we need to consume regularly. Liquids and waters are, in beverages and foods, so it's really perfectly adequate for people that have a very kind of active lifestyle to drink water as a way to kind of quench their thirst. Really kind of these very sports-like drinks are not necessarily really needed unless you're running, a marathon, or you're really, physically kind of aiming towards something at kind of a higher strenuous type of activity. Many of us are not professional athletes. Even our children that are playing sports, or ourselves, if we play sports, really having water is okay. It's not really recommended to drink, Gatorade or something of that type of beverage. So some of us may have heard the term nutrient-dense beverage. What does this mean? So these are basically beverages that provide high amounts of vitamins and minerals for really the serving size, and it provides really just kind of low calories as well. So some examples are, just plain milk, even milk alternatives like plain soy, 100% fruit juice, and even vegetable juice. So these beverages, they're also not always equal in the sense of, the essential nutrients that you might be receiving. So it's always important to, look at the label, and we'll kind of further talk about that. But many, kids are either overweight and undernourished, and this is particularly true for our children, especially living in the vulnerable communities where, food and beverage choices are often driven by, availability, accessibility, affordability as well. So there are many factors that kind of fall into those kind of just influences and those decisions. And some of that is related to, public policy that's occurring either at the federal government, state or local government. And early childhood is a key opportunity for us to establish those healthy kind of dietary patterns, which are important to supporting their optimal growth and development, as well as preventing any kind of chronic diseases like, type 2 diabetes. And the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, they kind of recently put out something that's called kind of the Healthy Eating Research sort of report. And they kind of really issued a statement, a consensus statement among experts and providers to really talk about, well, what should children be drinking at a kind of a young sort of age? This is ages, preschool age, toddlers, et cetera. And the report really advocated for water and plain milk. That's pretty much it. They show that, children in the ages sort of birth through 5 years old have a big impact in terms of kind of just the kind of critical period of their kind of growth. And many children are really more of like the 2 to 5 year old kind of age, are really consuming a lot of sort of sugar sweetened beverages, and it's coming from kind of fruit like drinks. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but something to keep in mind as we kind of move forward in the presentation. And I believe we'll actually come back to this particular slide, but I wanted to take a quick look at this graph here. So as we start to see what are the top sources of added sugar in the typical American diet, and that does involve kids ages 1 and older. As you can see, sugar sweetened beverages account for about 24%. Coffee and tea is about 11. And then specifically when we break that down into kind of, right, the sugar sweetened beverages of 24%, what exactly does that mean? So the largest intake of those added sugars is coming from soft drinks. That's 16%. And then 5% of that coming from fruit-based drinks, and 2% is from sports and energy drinks. And the 1%, it's a little bit kind of difficult to really pinpoint what that 1% is. So it's unclear if yogurt-based kind of drinks are in that category. There is another category, as we shared earlier, for coffee and tea. So that's kind of in its own as well. But as you could see, soft drinks, it's a pretty big number when you start to see that 16% is kind of coming from that. So kind of bringing it back to pediatric health, like what does that mean? As we share sugars, these sugar sweetened beverages don't really add any nutritional value or benefit. So they often, kind of take the place of, of something that a child should be drinking. And we know, dental carriers are a big issue when we're talking about our young children, and kind of preventing that as well. And I believe we talked about just, the research behind that, kind of just asking parents to kind of avoid giving their child any sort of sugar sweetened beverage. But I do want us to kind of go back to this slide, and I believe Joanna is going to be presenting on this.
Thank you, Sonia. So when reading a nutrition label, I know it can be overwhelming and sometimes difficult to, decipher what exactly everything means. So focusing on the sugars. So the nutrition label actually got updated. And you can see for one section for the sugars, it actually, they broke it down into the total sugar amount, and for it to include information about any added sugars. So the old nutrition label didn't have that information. So now you can really see the breakdown for it. So for total sugars, like I said, that includes the added sugars and then also the natural sugars that are already in certain drinks. And for added sugars, it includes any sugars or caloric sweeteners that are added to foods or beverages. So literally, they add extra sugar into it. So it'd be like if you're making your own coffee and you add, teaspoons of sugar to it. So it's essentially that. And added sugars or added sweeteners, they can include natural sugars such as white sugar, brown sugar, honey, or any other sort of caloric sweeteners that are chemically manufactured, so they're not natural. So an example would be like high fructose corn syrup. And these are the ones that you want to limit. And for naturally occurring sugars, those are the ones that are found in beverages like milk and in fruit. And any product that contains milk, like yogurt, milk, or cream, or fruit, it also contains some natural sugars. So in reading the label, the ingredients, you could see that they're listed in order of quantity in the product. So when you're reading it, that's how they break it down. So the main ingredient for this would be flour, but when breaking it down on how much sugar is in it, you can see that it has high fructose corn syrup and corn syrup solids. And it also has strawberry juice concentrate. So that would be like a natural sugar. And then with the other type of sugars, you could see it has corn syrup, maltodextrin, and dextrose. So these are other names for added sugar, other added sugars. So that can added sugars have many names. aside from something that just says sugar, like the ones that we know are, brown sugar, high fructose corn syrup, or corn sweetener, or the fruit juice concentrates. And then there's all the other ones that end with the OSE, which is OSE, like dextrose. Those are all added sugars, or anything that has the word sugar or syrup. I think go back to Sonia. I could speak on this one too. This is an infographic, and like Sonia mentioned, how much sugar should kids be taking in or drinking. So it's only 6 teaspoons of added sugars daily is what's recommended for kids from 2 to 18. So it's a small amount compared to what they really are taking, and when they drink those beverages.
Joanna, did you want to cover something else? Sorry. Was there another piece of the
Oh no,
particular
that's good.
slide? No, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was advancing a little bit there. So I wanted to talk about kind of just how really, what are these influences? We know that there's internal and external influences. And I wanted to take the time to kind of just take a look at this and really see how those influences really affect our health. Sometimes we don't really, stop to think about that, or the decisions that we make as parents, how that really might, just directly really impact the health of our kids. So it's, I wanted to take the time to kind of just touch on this a bit. And it's always important to kind of, stop and ask, why, maybe what are some of those factors that did influence your, your decision? And it could be maybe just the cost availability, or maybe you were influenced by your peers. So whether that's, a family member or friends, and some of those influences are really just only your personal your personal preference. So I wanted us to kind of just think about that piece of it, and in the perspective of students. When you start to think about some of the choices that they make, we know that at the age that they're in, they can be easily influenced and persuaded by their peers, or maybe by people that they really look up to. So their teachers, their parents, their older siblings, anyone that's really in their life. But also even, professional sports athletes, or actresses, et cetera. So anyone that they see as that person that is, a formative influence, and they may not really understand that. So, if you can, please talk to your children about, influences, and what influences their choices and the impact that it has on them. Um, did someone have a question? I'm sorry, I thought I heard a microphone come on. No, maybe not. So, this is a nice graph that kind of puts it in that perspective. So as we shared, it could be, various responses, the influence in the sense of what is it exactly? Is it the media? Is it maybe my family that is creating that kind of influence, and the type of influence, whether it's internal or external. And many of us, may know internal, right? It's really ourselves coming within. External is those outside influences outside of an individual. So that can be the media, that can also be, friends and family that do create that influence. So to calculate, so now that, thank you, Joanna, for walking us through just how to really look at that label and kind of keep an eye on those various different types of sugars. So to kind of really further understand, how do we calculate the sugars in a beverage? As Joanna shared, the first thing is to really look at the number of servings in the container. In this particular label, this beverage, there are about 2.5 servings per container. And the second step is to look at the grams of sugar per serving. This one in particular has 27 grams of sugar per serving. However, the amount of sugar that is really in there, it's not just the 27 grams. It would be something that we would want to multiply because of the size of the container. So in total, this beverage then would have 67.5 grams of sugar. And that is kind of sort of the great starting point of understanding the total grams of sugar in a particular beverage. Now, to kind of break that down a little bit further and have a better understanding, well, what does that mean in terms of teaspoons or, even sugar cubes themselves? The great formula is that 4 grams of sugar is equivalent to 1 teaspoon of sugar, or one sugar cube, is to kind of calculate. So you could easily round this number up. So then you would divide that by 4, and that would provide us with the total teaspoons of sugar in the container here. So as you could see, this particular container would, this beverage would have about 17 teaspoons of added sugar. So I'm hoping that everyone kind of feels comfortable with this calculation. We will have an opportunity to kind of break out into groups and kind of look at some very common beverages that maybe, our family members drink, or maybe ourselves that we drink, and have a better understanding of how much actual sugar is in it. So we do want to encourage everyone, if they possibly can, when we break out into groups, we could take a minute to, go to the kitchen, pick up 2 cups if you can, a teaspoon. And if you don't have, let's say, an actual measuring teaspoon, you could even try to find the smallest teaspoon that you have at home. If you have sugar, great. If you don't have sugar at home, that's available to kind of use for this activity. You can use salt. It's very comparable in kind of size in terms of just the granulation of it. So Heriberto, would you be able to break us up into 3 groups? Lisa, was there any particular, and I'm going to go back and share my screen. Was there any conversation regarding the milk aspect of it?
We had some technical difficulties and I wasn't able to get to the milk, but I really wanted to. And I just want to reiterate that the chocolate milk has added sugar in it too. So it's important, if you're choosing chocolate milk, say at the convenience store or at the grocery store, to really take a minute to look at that added sugar, includes added sugars and the grams. And then use your math skills, your magic number 4, and you take the grams of sugar and you divide that by 4, and you figure out how many teaspoons are in this drink that your children want to drink. And we do that at school. We have chocolate milk at school, and we often will, we look at it and say the children enjoy it. They drink more milk. Studies have shown that when you offer this low sugar chocolate milk at school, the children actually drink it, and they're getting that nutrient dense food. So they're getting the calcium and the protein that they need, the vitamin D. And so we really do want children to drink their milk. And so we offer that at school. But if you we take the time to look at the added sugar in school chocolate milk, and it equals to less than 1 teaspoon when you look at the added sugar compared to regular white milk. But we also don't want parents or children to be confused, because when you go to the convenience store and you choose chocolate milk for your child, oftentimes if you look at the added sugar, you might find 19 grams, 20 grams of added sugar. And we really want our families to be cognizant of that yes, there's chocolate milk at school, but it's really important to be a good, savvy consumer of what you're purchasing for your child. So I really hope that you use those skills. Divide the grams of sugar by 4, and then picture eating teaspoons of sugar.
No, that's great. Yeah. And even cubes, like maybe many of us might be familiar with the actual little cubes of sugar. That is also equivalent to 4 grams. So if you're just not sure and you want to use that as another visual, you definitely can. But here are kind of really what we talked about in our groups, and we all hope that we kind of did those conversions and the calculations and had a better understanding. And I like that this particular graph, as Lisa shared, milk itself, it really does indicate that it's that natural sugar versus something like chocolate milk. Yes, it's natural sugar because it's milk based. However, we're adding that chocolate to it. So there is a small amount, but you're welcome to take a look at this a little bit more. And really, if you do want to take the time to do, just kind of scooping up the sugar and better educate our family and our kids, encourage you to do that activity with them as well, so they can really see what they are consuming. So I do want to take the time to kind of go through, some healthy beverage, ideas and recipes. So I believe Sal is on the line, our chef Sal, and he can further take it away. Sal, are you on the line? I hope.
I think he just logged in.
I am.
There he is.
I
Yep.
had to switch on my phone. Yeah. Can you all see me by any chance?
We can hear you.
We can hear you, but
Wait,
we
you
can't see you.
Okay. Can someone stop sharing the screen briefly so that I can be seen? Maybe that might help.
Hi, Sal. We just see, we don't see you.
Okay, one sec. How about now? Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, you're
cool.
good.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Well, my name is Sal. I'm from Health Education Council. I work with Joe, and today I'll be taking you all through our cooking demo. We'll be making real fruit punch. I'm gonna put the recipe in the chat really quick. 1 second.
Yeah, and
All
if
right.
everyone, just so you guys can see him better, if you want to switch to your speaker view so that he can be like the full screen for you to see.
Thank you, Joe. I completely forgot about that. Thanks for that recommendation. So yeah, now that you all have the recipe, we'll get started. But before we get started, we're going to do a little icebreaker, just a quick icebreaker. And the question is, if you could have the wardrobe of any celebrity or athlete or movie character or book character, who would it be? I'll go first, and then since I want to save time, we can all put our answers in the chat. But if I could have the wardrobe of anyone famous or a celebrity or anything like that, it would be either Michael B. Jordan, the actor, or Victor Oladipo, the basketball player from the Houston Rockets. So yeah, just go ahead and put your answers in the chat, and we can all compare and laugh or roast each other depending on what we choose. But yeah, with that said, we'll get started with the demo. So we will be making a real fruit punch, like I said. Let me show you the ingredients real quick. All right. So for this real fruit punch recipe, you'll need 2 cups of frozen fruit and pineapples. So you can see the pineapples, and then I also have like berries and pomegranates and stuff like that. You'll have 2 cups of juice from concentrate. I chose apple juice. You have 2 cups of soda. And fun fact, as I was opening the soda right here, it spilled everywhere because of the carbonation. So yeah, it's been my day so far. And 2 cups of ice. 1 second. Okay, now that we're back, we're going to mix everything in together. So first we will start with the ice. Then the fruit. I'm spilling everywhere, but oh well, I'll clean it up later. And then your juice from concentrate. And then lastly, your club soda. And then once you have everything in, you can take your giant spoon and mix everything together and just let it sit. Let all the ingredients get to know each other for like 5 minutes or so. And once you do that, it'll be ready to serve. And there's your real fruit punch right here. The one thing I like about this recipe is that if you try it, there's not that much sugar, or it tastes like it doesn't have that much sugar, but you have your pineapples and your frozen fruits, which would be the substitute for any sugar that you would see in here or in here or in here. You get the point. But yeah, if you're trying to wean your children off super sugary beverages, this is a great start just because it has a lot of natural sugar, so it'll still taste sweet. But because of the club soda that we put inside, you still get that same like fizzy taste as you would from like a soda. So it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
Sal, and I was going to ask you if people really like the carbonation, but they also want that more concentrated flavor. If we were to cover it, let's say keep it overnight and then drink it the next day, will it still hold that carbonation level, that, you know, that those bubbles, especially if we're trying to cut back on the soda, but we'd like the bubble kind of feel in our mouth, but we want more of a concentrated fruit taste? Will the recipe hold up the next day? What are your experiences with just doing it overnight and then drinking it the next day?
That's a good question. It actually won't hold the carbonation. So the one thing that I would recommend to do is to make a pitcher of it without the club soda, and then add in the club soda when you're ready to drink it, or when you're pouring cups for people right before you drink it.
Thank you. Families are saying it looks refreshing.
Yeah, I just had it earlier today. It was really good.
All right. Well, delicious. This is definitely something we're going to want to try for nutrition education with our students, and something that we hope you can try at home. Another one of our favorites is spa water, where we will just add fresh fruit, like whole strawberries, or you can slice the strawberries and you can add berries, and you can do cucumbers and orange slices and lemon slices. And you put it in a pitcher with water, and then you put that in the refrigerator. I usually let it sit for at least overnight or a few hours, and then you have that water flavor, or that fruit flavored water, which is a really, refreshing alternative as well to those sugar sweetened beverages. And I had shared with our group that we had done that for our students every year, usually funded by the Health Education Council. They always provide us with money for the lemons and the cucumbers. And so every year, about April or May, we always offer that in the cafeteria for about a week. And we do a Rethink Your Drink kind of week, where the kids are encouraged to try these new things and really think about and learn about how much sugar is in beverages, and making that choice to choose more water. So thank you, Sal.
Yes, thank you, Sal. And thank you, Lisa, for sharing, what nutrition services is doing in schools to kind of continue that education of, what's in our drink and how to choose those healthier beverages. So I do want to share my screen just to give parents, everyone, let me go back and share here. Sorry, guys. The PowerPoint slide will have tons of recipes. So I encourage you to check that out when Heriberto shares that out. So this is the real fruit punch demo that Sal did. So thank you very much, Sal, for just introducing us to these just wonderful recipes. there are some recipes also for kind of just agua fresca and just a healthier version of, horchata as well. We know these are very refreshing drinks that many of our family members and ourselves like to, enjoy now that the weather is going to start to kind of turn and be a little bit more spring-like. These are always just yummy and delicious. And even in our kind of just family celebrations, these are sometimes the go-to drinks, the beverages. But we do quickly want to share that there is a family activity and this kind of just a fun way to kind of, just, talk to your kids about sugar sweetened beverages and try to kind of mix it up a little bit and find, oh, okay, well today, what can we drink? What might be, just the beverage that gets selected. So it's a fun kind of just fun little sheet that you can do. I'm not sure if many of us are familiar with kind of the origamis, but they're kind of cool. So we'll make sure we share that out with you as well. This is a tip sheet that kind of summarizes those key health recommendations on, as to what all individuals should be kind of just drinking and kind of keeping in mind when it comes to beverages. So Lisa, I'm not sure if you can share when this might be distributed out with your nutrition services teams with curbside meals, or has this been shared out already? I can't recall.
Yeah, so we encouraged our cafeterias staff to put these in the meal kits for Monday, I believe. So
Okay.
they most likely went out yesterday.
Okay.
And but it varies by site. So some of you may have received your
Mhm.
Friday's meal kit. So
Perfect
and then
timing though. Yeah.
Wednesday, yes.
Yes. So thank you, Lisa, for just giving us just a little bit of a heads up of when parents can expect that. I did see a couple people chat or someone chat that they got theirs yesterday. So that's awesome. I think good timing to today's workshop. So we want to encourage families to take the pledge as well. If, they want to just as a family do this together, please, we encourage you to, take the pledge and share your experience with nutrition services. If you are open to having that shared out a little bit more widely, maybe through social media, like their Facebook, definitely let Lisa know. It's always nice to have some more personalized, district posts, and especially as to, as it relates to just, building those healthy habits at home. That's really what the purpose of these, these workshops are. We want to be able to give you guys the tools and be able to encourage those healthy behaviors at home. So we definitely want to hear from you. So please, photos are always great as well. So we would like to kind of just launch a couple of polls. We want to hear from you guys after today. How do you feel about taking the pledge to reduce, sugar sweetened consumption? Is this something you want to do? So please feel free to respond. Yes, no, maybe you're not sure.
And then also real quick, Sonia, we have had several questions asking if white sugar or brown sugar is better than white sugar, or, that kind of thing. So did you want to answer that?
I'd like to say it's just the simplest way is sugar is sugar.
Yes.
The brown sugar has molasses, so it's a little bit more concentrated, a little bit more sweeter. So I definitely don't want to persuade you to use one over the other. I think bottom line, sugar is sugar. You may use a little bit less with more of the darker type of brown sugar because of that molasses concentration, but ultimately it will not provide any nutritional benefits. So it's best to try to just cut back where you possibly can. But great question though.
And I do see, Sonia, that there's
yes, share okay. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah, so maybe it looks like, we're all pretty much on board to kind of take the pledge, and maybe we're not sure how our family members feel, but we know taking those steps always starts with us, right? And setting that, that example with our families. And then we do have another poll that we do want to launch. This one is now specifically talking about where can we make those healthier choices? Is this maybe at breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, or maybe it's all hours of the day. Maybe you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to really look at what I'm what I'm drinking for every single period of the day. And it's okay if maybe you want to focus during dinner time, because that may be the time where you consume more sugar sweetened beverages. So we want to encourage everyone to take the poll. We'll give everyone just a couple of more seconds.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Mhm.
I usually give my kids sparkling water instead of soda, but I read that it's bad for their teeth. So I was wondering, because I'm not sure if it is good for them or not.
Well, does the sparkling water have the added sugar or the like the I call it the fake sugars in it?
No, it just it's like sparkling water with lemon, but it doesn't have any sugar.
I haven't heard any research that sparkling water is damaging to the teeth at all. I think maybe there's some confusion because they're saying sparkling water with added sugars. So yeah, as long as it doesn't have the added sugar, then you're not going to have that added, the sugar content in your child's mouth.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you, Lisa, for answering that. Yeah, I haven't heard any research either, but you can definitely, when you do kind of take your child to do the checkups, the dental checkups, definitely, bring that question up if you do have any kind of, oral health concerns. They may be able to provide you just additional information or be able to kind of further answer your question, but that's a really good question. So from our poll results, we definitely, some of us are like, yes, we want to, focus all hours of the day. Others a little bit more concentrated. Maybe it is that, during snack time, kind of when we are kind of going towards the sugary beverages, or during lunch. And it's, it just starts with having an understanding of, where we can improve those healthier choices. So thank you everyone for, doing these poll questions. And these are the additional kind of just slides, and they are in Spanish as well. Here's some just great recipes. Joanna, do you want to share anything regarding this, this resource?
Yeah, so like Sonia mentioned, these are some recipe cards and some they're actually categorized by different like tastes. If you prefer more herbal, you would go, like with rosemary or like mint, and if you like sweeter, then you would go like strawberry and cucumber. And then there's also tangy, would have more lemon, and then the last one would be tropical, so you'd have like more like cranberries. And kiwis. So these recipe cards are broken down by those kinds of flavors that you prefer. So we'll be sharing this out with you guys, and they're in English and Spanish as well, so you guys can try these at home with your kids.
Yeah, and that's that's today's presentation. We could definitely just take any questions that you have, anyone that is interested. We realize we are a little bit at time, but we're happy to answer any questions you have.